We have all 9 candidates here tonight, and there's 4 openings for the school board. I'd like to thank all of the candidates here tonight and their willingness to serve our community in this way. So tonight the questions will come from you in the audience, and we will only accept written questions. The questions must be addressed to all candidates and should address the issues. Questions will be sorted and grouped by topic to help avoid some duplication. We have volunteers in the audience. Please raise your hand, volunteers, who will be collecting the cards. And then myself and Chris Crabtree, the Vice President of PTA Council, will review the cards for appropriateness and to help avoid duplication. We probably won't be able to answer all of the questions this evening due to time, so therefore we may combine some related questions. Please refrain from applauding or demonstrating in any way your support or non-support of any candidate. There will be time at the end for everyone to show their support. The Wheaton Warrenville PTA Council claims copyright of all tapes and transcripts that are produced from this event and reserves the right to publicize this forum. No voice, image, or other duplications may be used by candidates or candidate representatives in any campaign or in any advertising. You may link to this forum in its entirety, but no other recordings may be made. The candidates have all agreed to these conditions. They have campaign literature outside, too, at the tables. If you'd like to, feel free to pick up any campaign literature. I'd like to thank a few volunteers really quick tonight. Our timers, we have Sue Anderson, Nancy Gambiani, and Kimberly McNamara. They're members of the Wheaton Warrenville PTA Council. We have Sharon Larson, and Judith Zapp, and Kathy Goddard collecting the cards. And Chris Crabtree and myself will be sorting the questions. We'd also like to give a big thanks to Wendy Larson. Wendy, are you in here? There she is, back there. She is the wonderful woman who basically put this whole thing together and coordinated everything more or less twice, because the first time it was canceled because of the snow day. So thank you, Wendy. And we'd also like to thank our moderator, Dr. Stephen Caliento. He is a professor of political science at North Central College. So now, as a matter of courtesy, if everyone could please turn off their electronic devices, and I will turn the forum over to Dr. Calente.
Good evening. On behalf of the candidates, if I may, I hope you'll join me in extending a thank you to the Wheaton Warrenville PTA Council for organizing this event. That way they don't have to use precious time in their opening statements to do that. I particularly want to thank Wendy Larson for inviting me here. I don't live in the community, which I guess makes me a good objective moderator, but I've moderated 3 or so of these events over the years, and so I feel very welcome here. Thank you. And certainly to Kelly Weber, the president of the Wheaton Warrenville PTA Council. Thank you very much for all the work that you've done. Further? Closer. Closer? Hello? All right. So the way we're going to work this is each candidate is going to have an opportunity to provide a 2-minute opening statement, an opening remark, and introduction. The order has been determined by randomly. So the names were put in a hat, and the order from closest to me, from farthest away, is the order we will proceed. We expect to get through 7 questions. And so to make this fair, we will ask one candidate, Mr. Knicker, to be the first candidate to give an opening statement. Then Mr. Fogarty will be the first candidate to answer the first question. Each candidate will answer subsequently. And then we will ask Mr. Lonks to be the first candidate to give a closing statement at the end. Hopefully that sounds fair to everybody. If it doesn't, there's nothing we can do right now. So that's where we are. All right, great. I would ask and remind everyone, of course, that the candidates will be respectful throughout to each other, but most importantly to me. That's a joke. The time limits will be enforced, however. That's very important. We want to keep things moving along. We have timekeepers in the front. They have signs. The candidates are aware of how those signs will work, and I will use my microphone to enforce that if need be. So there we are. Without further ado, we'll have our opening remarks, and Mr. Knicker, if you would.
Thank you very much. I've been actively involved in the Wheaton Warrenville Community District 200 since 1970 as a teacher for 7 years, a parent, of 3 District 200 educated children, a taxpayer, an active member of PTAs, high school booster board, strategic planning committee, education to careers district committee, and a member of the Board of Education of District 200 in 1996 and 97, and currently serving on the board since 2001. My experience for the past 40 years as an active member of our schools provides me with an excellent opportunity to listen and to learn from the community and understand the needs of our children in all of our schools from pre-K through age 22. Our district administration and school board are faced with many issues day in and day out. In these very trying and less than secure and changing financial times, I believe the focus must be of the following: fiscal stability and long-range financial planning, improvement of student performance through curriculum and development of the Common Core standards, professional development of our staff, and focus on professional learning communities. Continuing focus on increasing use of technology throughout the schools, both for teachers and students. Ongoing discussions with our state legislators for finding funding solutions for education. The responsibility of the board is to set and monitor policy and see that the district's personnel can, within the more or less position that we're in right now, continue listening, functioning, creating, and delivering an excellent quality of educational services our taxes are supporting. This excellence within our district is real and it's exciting. All students in our communities are being served in the best way we can, and I want this exciting educational opportunity for them to continue. I'm proud of the opportunity that I, as a parent, have experienced time on the board, and I look forward to being reelected and continuing. Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll have it. You can finish your sentence if you get time in the middle about that. But thank you very much, Mr. Knicker. Mr. Fogarty.
My name is Bruce Fogarty. I have lived in Wheaton for 18 years. I have twins that are at Franklin and a 5th grader at Lowell. I work as an accountant during the day. I've worked at a number of businesses that are medium to large size. I've done just about every accounting task imaginable. I've also worked as an adjunct instructor at a number of local colleges and universities, so I'm very familiar with what goes on in a classroom, and I'm used to fielding tough questions from an audience. I also have been active in the city of Wheaton for about 4 years. I was on the Wheaton Historic Commission, and for the last 2.5, almost 3 years, I have been on the Wheaton Library Board as well, so I'm involved in my city. One of the things that I would like to bring, I think I can bring to the school board, is a disciplined financial background. I'm a numbers guy. I believe that sound long-term planning is key to the continued financial stability and the operational health of our school district. At my daughter's elementary school, I have helped organize Jamboree for the last 9 or 10 years, and for those of you who don't know what a Jamboree is, it's basically a fundraiser that the PTA has organized every year, and it's been a lot of fun for me. So I think I offer a balanced background that'll bring perspective to District 200.
Thank you, Mr. Fogarty. Ms. Shaw.
Hi, I'm Jan Shaw, and I'm actually running to represent the taxpayers. There's a lot of us who feel like we've been told to basically be quiet and open our wallets, and I'm very concerned about the finances of this district. My children, youngest is in college. I've raised 4 children. They went through these schools. I started paying attention to school board back when my oldest was in school, which he started kindergarten in 1990. So it's been about 20 years I've been coming in and out of these school board meetings, not consistently, but occasionally, and watched all the different things. I remember the Questmass series. I remember Impressions. We remember Hubble. We remember all the different referendums. But I'm concerned about the children. I've noticed that our kids aren't learning as much now as they used to learn. I'm very concerned about the new curriculum. I don't like the fact that it's coming down from a central organization. Even if they do a good job this time, I don't think we should be putting that much power in any one group of hands. I think the community, the parents should be paying attention to this and having some input in terms of what our children are learning. And the big thing here is to make sure our kids are learning and to make sure that our schools are affordable so that people who raise their kids here can afford to still live here. When the taxes get too high, then people can't afford their homes, and I don't think we should be asking people to move in order for us to build a bigger school. I'm going to pass it on.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. Mr. Matheson.
Hello. Excuse me. I lost my voice last time we did this, and it must be a habit. At any rate, I'm making my first appearance on YouTube. Anyway, my name's Jim Matheson. I think you're going to hear a lot about finance tonight. One of the biggest challenges facing school districts in the state of Illinois is state funding, pension costs, etc. I believe I'm uniquely qualified to deal with that. I've been a CPA for a lot of years. I won't go into how many. But I've worked with over 40 different school districts in the state of Illinois over the last 30 years. I've helped them as a financial advisor as well as an auditor. I was the former chairman of the Illinois CPA Society on school districts. So with that background, I think I can provide a lot of assistance in dealing with the challenges that we're going to be facing financially. I'm also very active in the community. I've been on multiple boards. I'm currently on the Wheaton Bank and Trust Board. I am president-elect of the Downtown Wheaton Association. I've been a long-term board member of the Wheaton Cemetery Association, ex-president and long-term member of the Wheaton Lions Club, a long-term member of the Wheaton Chamber of Commerce. So again, those involvements help connect a different part of the community, I believe, that we typically don't see in the school system alone, as well as being a business owner in downtown Wheaton, by the way. My skills are basically dealing with planning, finance, and asking the difficult questions that we're going to be challenged with over the next number of years. I've had 3 children going through the school system, all of whom have graduated, and I have a grandchild that's going to be starting in the next few years. And I want to make sure that her opportunities are as good as the ones we've had from my children. Planning is the key. My major focus, long-term planning, technology is very important, building obsolescence is very important. Again, I think I'm uniquely qualified with this background. I was endorsed by the Daily Herald based on that ability to look forward. And I think I'm my biggest value is that I'm an independent member of the board, member of the community.
Thank you, Mr. Matheson. Ms. Intihar.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Intihar, and I do want to thank all of you who have come out tonight and thank the community who will watch this video for their interest in education, for your interest in education of our students, for supporting our schools through your tax dollars, and for valuing the role of the schools in our communities and for the privilege of serving for the last 12 years. I ask for your support tonight and your vote on Tuesday to continue to serve you as a member of the District 200 Board of Education. Over the past 12 years, I believe I've served well in my role as a member of this board. We've discerned our community's beliefs, we've stood steadfast on our mission, focused on our vision, and with great support from the District 200 community, we've guided the school district through some very difficult times. Throughout it all, my focus has remained steadfast: improve learning for all present and future students. As witnessed by our improving test scores and awards, we have improved student learning. As witnessed by our improved financial ratings from Moody's and the Illinois State Board of Education and any other measure you could consider, we have provided financial stability for the foreseeable future by containing costs, balancing budgets, and increasing reserves. As witnessed by our record on safety, energy efficiency, and support for learning, we have created safe and secure environments conducive to learning. With the completion of our Jefferson Initiative, all buildings in the district will have been either replaced or renewed to various degrees within the last 20 years. Within that context, I believe we are on a course to realize our vision, and that is to be an exemplary, student-focused district, highly regarded for the competence and character of our students and the excellence of our people, programs, and learning environment. You will hear tonight what each of us feels we can contribute over the next 4 years to move us closer to that vision. I believe the experience, leadership, commitment, and service that I have demonstrated will merit your vote next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Intihar. That's time.
Good
Ms.
evening.
Coghill.
Good evening. I am Joanne Coghill, a district resident for the past 22 years. I have 3 children who all graduated right here at Wheaton North. I was on the PTA and volunteered at Pleasant Hill and Monroe for many years. And here at Wheaton North, I was the booster president for 4 years and was part of the initiating and chairing the auction fundraiser, which is a major support for this school. I believe I bring a unique perspective to the board because I've been a local realtor for the past 17 years. On a weekly basis, I hear from buyers moving into this area because of the reputation of our school district. Excuse me. Even if they don't have children, buyers know they want to live in District 200 to safeguard their home values. It is critical that we all remain unified to protect and always improve our reputation for every homeowner. That reputation will continue if we do what is most important, and that is what is best for every single child in our schools. I am proud to be on this board who decided what is best for our most vulnerable special education students is to finally improve their learning environment by putting the need to build a new Jefferson school as a referendum in this election. And I look forward to discussing it further tonight. It has been a privilege to be on the school board for the past 9 years and a responsibility I take very seriously to represent all stakeholders and every child. I'm very proud to have been on this board when we needed to make the tough decisions during these difficult economic years. With the leadership of our superintendent, we cut $15 million in expenses in 2009 to 2011. We ensured a balanced budget for the past 3 years, and I promise that that will be our priority to continue on. We adopted a fund balance policy, negotiated a teacher contract that is tied to the CPI, and eliminated retirement incentives. We refunded outstanding debt.
Thank you, Ms. Coghill. If we could, I would ask just if the candidates could hold the microphone just a little bit closer to the mouth, primarily for the video. Mr. Paulson.
Good evening. I'm Brad Paulson, and to open, I'm going to share a little bit about me. My wife and I are lifetime Chicagoans, and we moved to Wheaton 8 years ago. And we have 2 daughters, a 6th grader at Edison and a 2nd grader at Lincoln. With the youngest child of all the candidates, the first key point I'm going to make is that I'm going to bring a long-term perspective and deep commitment to advancing District 200. Professionally, I bring a unique background with master's degrees in architecture and finance. I have a 22-year professional career as an architect and business leader, and am currently vice president of a large architecture and construction company. And I lead my firm's K-12 education team. And to be clear, if I'm elected, my firm would not be involved in any projects whatsoever with District 200. My entire career has been focused on helping school districts plan for and improve their learning environments. But the value I bring comes not from the architecture of those buildings, instead what goes on inside the classrooms and inside the boardrooms. I understand 21st century teaching and learning, I understand school finance, and I understand the importance of transparency and community engagement. For 22 years, I've lived and breathed K-12 education. I've seen what other districts are doing, and I continually measure our differences. So my second point is that the perspective and value I bring comes far beyond the walls of District 200. Hopefully tonight I'm going to get to share some of my vision. I think we have a strong platform as we look to the future, but I acknowledge we have challenges ahead. However, I view challenges not as roadblocks that prevent progress, but as hurdles we need to find our way around. We just have to be creative, and who better than an architect that understands education and finance. So I'm here optimistic and excited about the future. So my third point is I have ideas I think everybody can get excited about. My vision is focused on expanding instructional technology for student learning, linking financial stability with innovation, and I have actual ideas to do that, creating new partnerships to expand learning opportunities, and of course I bring unique expertise to guide capital improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. Mr. Nenninger.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Nenninger. My wife Laura and I have been residents of Wheaton for 18 years. We're blessed with 4 daughters who attend District 200 schools. We have a junior, a freshman, a 7th grader, and a 5th grader. The girls have gone to school at Lowell, Lincoln, Edison, Old Hubble, New Hubble, and South. So I'm very familiar with the buildings in the district. Over the course of their education, the girls have had well over 100 District 200 teachers. Yes, that's a lot of parent-teacher conferences, but we are continually amazed at the quality of the teachers in District 200. They are our strength. My personal background is I have a law degree from Villanova University, where I was an editor on the Law Review. I have an MBA from the University of Chicago with a concentration in finance. I spent several years, 15 years, working at various large law firms structuring complex financial transactions. In 2004, I started my own firm providing financial advice to firms in the energy sector. So why am I running for the Board of Education? The main reason is I'm passionate about the students in our district. Many of you know me from coaching Little League teams or as president of Tiger Paws, the booster club at Wheaton, Warrenville South, which I've been for the last 2 years. That has been an incredible opportunity to get to work with the administrators in the schools, the teachers, and most importantly, the students. They continue to impress. So what do I bring? I bring a fresh perspective. Many of the Board of Education members have served for multiple terms, and no matter what the entity, it's always good to have a fresh perspective. I also bring a parent's perspective, the parent of a high schooler, middle schoolers, elementary school. And finally, I bring the ability to utilize the unique expertise set in law and finance and a common sense approach to tackling the issues that this district is going to face. Thank you, and I look forward to the discussion tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Nenninger. Mr. Lonks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Harold Lonks. I am very active in my daughter's school. My twin girls are in the 4th grade at Pleasant Hill. I volunteer for many activities at Pleasant Hill. I'm on the PTA Executive Board serving as treasurer. I'm chairing and volunteering on various PTA committees. Also, I've been an active member of the Jefferson PTA for 3 years after witnessing firsthand the incredible efforts put forth by the parents and staff in supporting the needs of students. My education background, I have a Bachelor of Science in Accounting and Finance from the University of Dayton. My work background is 35 years experience in finance, accounting, and technology. Why am I sitting here? After spending 3 years attending school board meetings and being active at Pleasant Hill, I felt someone has to stand up and become an advocate for the students and the taxpayers in our district. I want the district to work harder in reducing the 30% of the students failing to meet state standards upon graduating our 2 high schools and being fiscally responsible with our monies so it's spent on the students and classrooms and not elsewhere. The incumbents have been serving for about 12 years, and during their tenure, the district has spent in excess of deficit spent in excess of $50 million. Every year, our property taxes increase to pay for education, and the administration keeps telling us they need more revenue. The other issue is the lack of transparency. The district did not take into account the concerns of district parents and taxpayers for the following issues: the Washington and Franklin school boundary changes, selling of the old Hubble, and the information provided on the $17.6 million Jefferson referendum. Thank you for coming out this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Lonks. We move now to the question portion, the speed dating version of the program. The candidates will have half the amount of time they had for their opening statements, so 60 seconds each. We will go in order, but we will rotate the candidate who has the first question. And the very first question goes to Mr. Fogarty. And again, every candidate will answer the same question. Here's the question. Many of the candidates have been openly critical of the current board and administration. If elected, how do you plan to work with any other board members, any of the other board members who were not on your side? Mr. Fogarty.
Well, the first thing that I value is diversity of opinion. Some of you who may have attended the earlier forum may have heard me say that I think differences of opinion are a healthy thing because in the tug and pull of public decision making, I think the better ideas rise to the top if there's some difference of opinion. So I welcome differences of opinion, and I certainly respect them, and I think if there's respect and different points of view, the best decision will be arrived at.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw.
I think you hit it on the head there. We need to discuss the issues. If you're afraid of discussing something out of fear of political correctness, and everybody ends up voting the same way because they're afraid to say what they're all thinking, but nobody wants to say it out loud, then we end up avoiding topics and making bad decisions. It's very important that we respect each other. We need to be civil. We need to be polite. It's great if you can all be friends. But we also need to be able to discuss the issues. We're here to make sure we're doing the best for the children and also looking out for the taxpayer to make sure we've done the right thing with their money.
Thank you. Mr. Matheson.
Thank you. I've made a career of being an independent, challenging thinker, and I think that's something we need to bring, again, to the board. We've had a lot of new ideas that can be expressed. I've heard many of them spoken tonight in other candidate forums. And I think the challenge is a twofold challenge. It's the existing board being able to adapt to new ideas, and that's very important, as well as candidates being able to work in board environments. And I think those are very positive influences on the program. So I think that's one of the challenges we work with. I work, again, on a number of boards, and we solve a lot of problems, and I look forward to doing it in this environment as well.
Thank you. Ms. Intihar.
Well, I've been on a board that has solved a lot of problems in the last 12 years, and I will tell you that there's a lot that goes on that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of before we come to a vote. First of all, we have discerned through the community and through community forums a mission, vision, and values. So we have an understanding of what the community believes, and we understand what our mission and vision are. So every goal that we set every year has an obligation to tie into that mission, vision, and values. We typically have very lively discussion when we're setting goals, as some of my fellow board members in the audience can attest to. We have a lively discussion about that. And then, as we talk about items that come up that support those goals, we have a three-step process. We present the idea at one meeting, at the second meeting we discuss it, and at the third meeting we vote. So when we come to a consensus, that is exactly what we're doing. We work with each other to come to consensus. So by the time we get to a vote, a proposal may have already been through several iterations and several changes, because we try to work as a board together toward our mission, vision, values, and goals.
Thank you. Ms. Coghill.
Barb explained that very well. I was also going, but I won't repeat it because she did such a good job that with those board meetings, it's just not a topic thrown out and we vote on it. It has gone through many processes and discussed and opinions, and we do need to come to a consensus. And usually we are able to do that. If any new board member, we will be, after the election, unified. We will discuss things. We'll be open to opinions, and I don't see any problem with personalities or, we will be there all together, working together. In my business, we negotiate all the time, and so we would be negotiating to get a common good answer for our district.
Thank you. Mr. Paulson.
Well, I think we're all up here for common reasons. We're all up here for the kids, to do good things for our community and to try to advance the district, and we just have different opinions about how we can go about doing that. Or the district should go about doing that. I work with boards all over Chicagoland, other parts of the country. I see good boards, I see bad boards. I think it's important to understand that what happens, there's a lot that happens in visible level and what has to happen behind the scenes ahead of time. I think the keys are to understand collaboration and how to understand differences of opinion and ideas and listen to other people, and then discuss those ideas and then decide as a group or as an individual how you want to vote. So the approach I would take is collaborate, understand, discuss, and then decide.
Thank you. Mr. Nenninger.
Well, as you heard me say, I have 4 daughters. 3 of them are teenagers. I am very familiar with debating, negotiating, and those things. But honestly, I'm president of Tiger Paws. One of the main objectives I brought there was a healthy debate of issues, and you would think that a booster club there wouldn't be much debate. Some of our meetings go way too long because everyone feels free to speak up, voice their opinion. A lot of our votes are not unanimous, and I'm on my share of each side. But I think it's important, and I want to emphasize, the question did ask, what about people not being on your side? I hope that everybody up here is on the side of the kids. And that's the most important thing, and that's why we're all doing this. So a healthy debate, a public debate, is a good thing for democracy. I'll encourage it and look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lunks.
Yes. A good board has people with many different opinions, and it also allows the board to make better decisions. I will work with all my fellow board members, no matter if I agree with them or might not agree with them on issues. And we're all working for the common good of the district and the students in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knicker.
Yes, the board is established to create board policy and let our administration take care of all of the regulations that we have established as a board. Since I've been on the board, we have spent many times over again, usually about every 12 to 18 months, through the Illinois Association of School Boards to have a governance policy workshop. And that policy is established to have boards work collaboratively together to study what we do best, how we do it, how can we agree or disagree on things, and how we can come together and collaborate on the final decisions that we make as a board, keeping in mind what's best for the children of the community. And that is exactly what I would propose we continue to do, and we've been able to work with a lot of different people in the course of the years that I've been on the board, and it's worked very well.
Thank you. Now our second question, and I'll ask Ms. Shaw to answer first. You knew this one was coming. Elaborate on your support for or opposition to the Jefferson referendum. And should CUSD use the $4.5 million grant or raise taxes? Ms. Shaw.
All right, I've already spoken out on this one. The proposed building is too big. It's too expensive. We need to vote no and then determine what the children actually need and what we can afford. I feel that some of the grant money should have been used for Jefferson, that there was no reason to be taxing the community to pay for this whole thing. One of the interesting things I read tonight, and I have not had a chance to verify this, somebody posted that Naperville built their early childhood center for $11 million. We know that our own district had an estimate for $13.5 million back in 2007. We know we can do this for less. The attendance at the preschool has not gone up. It's been flat since 2007. So we don't need as much capacity as what they're projecting.
Thank you. Mr. Matheson.
Thank you. The Jefferson School is it's on the ballot. It's a referendum issue. I think it's a very effective program. I've heard nothing but good about the program and its delivery. But I pride myself to be a long-term planner, and I don't think it's appropriate at this point to make this a campaign issue. I think the citizens will decide on whether this is going to move forward in the direction that it's planned or not. And the challenge of the board will be how to deal with it if it doesn't pass. And that's where I think I could make a significant contribution, both financially and understanding some of the issues of building costs, et cetera. So my specific position at this time is I think it's a very effective program, but the voters should decide on what its course will be.
Thank you. Ms. Intihar.
I voted to put the Jefferson referendum on the ballot so that the community could decide whether or not they feel it is the best thing to do for our students. I would not have put it on the ballot had I not thought that the structure was sound, that the building plans were sound, that the enrollment figures were correct, and that the program-driven facility needed to be built. We have an issue in that a lot of people like to talk about seats when they talk about buildings. It's more about program than it is about seats. So the program has changed in the last 5 years and the last 10 years. The program it will continue to change. The current number of students we serve is 350. We're building for between 400 and 420, and that will accommodate program changes in the future. So I'm fully in support. I believe the price is right. I believe everybody sharpened their pencils. And if Jefferson passes, I will be very happy to watch every penny that goes into it and make sure we're getting the best bang for the buck.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Coghill.
Again, this was not just decided overnight. This was analyzed and reviewed for 15 years. This has been discussed and been a problem in our district. This building, as we have said many times, 1958, it is not a facility for special needs children. And there were committees to determine this. And, we are not expertise, except Brad actually probably would have some input on what would be needed, but we had our architects. Most importantly, though, we had our teachers. Who to know better than who is working with the teachers and the parents to determine what is needed for those children on a daily basis to affect their learning. So I am totally in support of it, and it is going to only, again, enhance our reputation of our district.
Thank you. Mr. Paulson.
Well, as I said very early in the campaign, actually before the board even made a decision to put on the ballot, I do support Jefferson. I've had the opportunity to be involved in planning 2 early childhood buildings in the area, including the one in Naperville. I think the plan is well thought out. I've looked at every line item on the budget, and professionally as an architect and personally as a resident, I think it's a sound plan. And if it passes or fails, I think I'm going to bring unique ability to guide the discussions, whether it's doing the Jefferson or evaluating other options. I know how to ask the right questions that probably other people might not know to even ask. I'm very supportive of it in terms of the discussions about the grant. The grant's part of the fund balance. I think we need to have a long-term perspective and be able to absorb the potential pension shift from Springfield, and that's part of our opportunity there. So, as I said, I do support the referendum.
Thank you. Mr. Nenninger.
Well, as I've mentioned before, I took a tour of Jefferson during school day, spent about an hour with kids in the building, and the best I've heard the building described as is a dump. And it truly is, and it's not fair to the kids we send there or the teachers that we ask to teach there, that we ask them to do it in that building. So that being said, I definitely think something needs to be done. In my mind, that leads to 2 options. You either rebuild it or you renovate it. And my primary concern is that people be able to cast an informed vote. Whatever the voters want to decide, it's on the ballot, is fine with me. One piece of information that would help me right now cast an informed vote would be the enrollment projections. I have an email from Dr. Harris in February telling me that he has the new 10-year enrollment projections. And it would be helpful for me in trying to decide which option I support to get those. So as long as people cast an informed vote, whatever the voters decide is great.
Thank you. Mr. Lonks.
I believe this question should be a campaign issue for the board challenges, since it's already been decided. It's going to be decided by the voters next week. The school is 54 years old and is in need of major renovations. I totally agree that we need a new Jefferson because it's in horrible shape. But a person of fiscal responsibility, I cannot support the referendum as put forth on the ballot. I think it's fiscally unsound of spending, not spending any of the capital development funds that we received, and also backloading all the principal payments in the last year of the bonds. And for comparisons of other schools, for instance, I go to Pleasant Hill. We have almost 600 students at Pleasant Hill, and it's about 74,000 square feet. The new Jefferson is going to hold roughly 200 kids per session, and it's being built for 60,000 square feet. So there's an issue with size comparisons.
Thank you. Mr. Knicker.
Yes, I totally support the Jefferson program. There's no way to compare an elementary building with a early childhood center. There's so many different things that need to go on as we study a program-driven school, and not necessarily the number of seats or children that are in there. It's a totally different kind of approach to education when we take care of the special needs children. We currently have, our programs are scattered around the district, and it would save money for us to bring all of these programs under one roof. We currently have programs at Madison, at Whittier, and also at Johnson Elementary School. It would save teachers drive time. It would save a lot of money to have all of the analysis going on in one building and not scattered out throughout the district. And I do support 100% the program-driven studies and the Jefferson preschool as it's on the ballot for consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Fogarty.
I too support the rebuild at Jefferson. I think it's important that we have a viable special needs facility to support the students and the families in our community. Our family, my extended family anyway, has had special needs people or disabled people. My mother is manic depressive, and I think it's important that we have the facilities that our community needs to meet those needs. I also have a background in construction accounting and finance, so I too can bring a pair of experienced eyes to the decision-making process and the administration of the contract.
Thank you. Before I read the next question, I've been asked to, first of all, thank you all for the questions you've submitted, and to let you know that we've received, at this point, over 50 cards. So we will be staying till 3 a.m. I hope everyone is okay with that. Get comfortable. Of course, we're very happy to see so many well-thought-out questions. We're trying our best to cover a wide range of topics to get you the answers that you need to make an informed decision. That's a polite way of saying we're probably not going to ask your question. The next question, Mr. Matheson, I'll ask you if you'll address it first. What are your top 3 agenda items that you'd like the board to focus on in the next 2 years?
Usually we start off the curriculum questions on me, but that's okay because I'm an accountant. But I think the major concern is the whole financial area of school systems in the state of Illinois. We talk about Jefferson and we're going to take some dollars and do that. Well, we've got a whole litany of challenges coming up in the next 5-10 years. We have teacher pension problems. We have the state of Illinois problems. All these things are just part of the whole spectrum of what we have to deal with. And it's hard to pull out one thing and say that Jefferson, for instance, that this has been a problem for 10, 15 years, and now we're focusing on it. And that's fine, but we also have to look at the big picture of the financial concerns of the entire district. I'm very disappointed in the technology level that we're at. I don't think we're incorporating it enough. Building obsolescence is another key word. So those are very important concerns to me.
Thank you. Ms. Intihar.
I have a few very concrete things that I think we need to be doing in the next 4 years, or in the next, was the question?
The question was 2 years, but
2 years, 4 years, my next term is
right.
what I'm looking at.
Okay.
In the immediate future, the implementation of Common Core Math and Common Core Language Arts. That is going to be a very, very time-consuming and very arduous task. We feel we have it well under control. We feel like we've planned for it very, very well, but that will take time and effort and attention all up and down the line, from our teachers' aides to our superintendent. The second thing is we will continue to maintain a balanced budget while achieving academic goals. That's the balancing act that we've been talking about. We recently received financial recognition from the state of Illinois. About over 100 districts dropped. We were one of very few who actually were raised in our status of finance with the state of Illinois. And then the third thing is to implement a strategy to execute the long-term facilities plan, which we do have. We have a long-term facilities plan and a long-term budget, and we will implement strategies to execute those.
Thank you. Ms. Coghill.
The economy, excuse me, wow. And our finance, of course, has to be number one, because if we don't have our finances, we can't pay, and we need that to support everything. And we need to keep our balanced budget. That is number one, and I promise you that we won't go without a balanced budget and a long-term financial plan. I would like to pay more attention. We've done well, but a little more attention to our English language learners. They are in our population, and they need the extra help to raise their learning, raise their scores, and be part of our community. And so I'd really like to help our teachers and our staff to help them progress. And I agree, our technology. We've made huge steps. I mean, we were way behind, but now it's time to go to that next level with technology.
Thank you. Mr. Paulson.
Well, it's easy to talk about money, but I won't. I'm going to talk about technology also, and my perspective is a little different. I want to put more technology in kids' hands. And I think, technology is not about doing old things in new ways, but it's about having the opportunity to do something differently that hasn't been done before. And I think our kids are growing up in that environment, and we need to encourage that kind of atmosphere in our schools. Secondly, I'd like to expand our thinking in terms of teaching and learning. I've got some pretty specific ideas in terms of community partnerships with Morton Arboretum, with the College of DuPage, and with Wheaton Drama that touch various aspects of our community. I know all those entities would be interested in partnering with us. And then finally, The biggest trend going on across the country is called the flipped classroom. It's really about changing the environment by which students and teachers interact and students absorb information. I'm very interested in how we can do that effectively across our district or in individual pockets in the right place at the right time. And of course, facilities are an issue that's out there. And again, I think I bring some unique capabilities.
Thank you. Mr. Nenninger.
Well, I'm going to touch on finances as well, but to me, financial prudence and a balanced budget are just not optional. I mean, that should be expected, so I won't spend too much time. Technology in the classroom, critical to me. In the last 2 years as president of Tiger Paws, we put over $100,000 of technology into Wheaton, Warrenville South. We're very proud of that, and I thank the parents who have raised the funds to do that, but the district needs to step up as well. A big challenge for District 200 is going to be the changing demographics that are occurring. This is a great thing and needs to be embraced, but we need to be aware of it, embrace it, and take it as a strength in our district. And the other thing that needs focus, since the question is over a 2-year horizon, is Common Core. It's going to require quite a bit of implementation and parent education as well, and that is something that needs to be a focus also.
Thank you. Mr. Lonks.
Yes, one of the, my first agenda item would be is also fiscal responsibility. We definitely need to have a balanced budget. We do have to look at how we spend our money and somehow build up reserves so we can repair the buildings that are going to be in need of repair. The other thing, my other agenda item will be transparency. I believe that we should open board committee meetings to the public, to members of the public. Right, currently there's very little input from the public in these meetings. And the final thing is having the administration work hard to reduce the 25 to 30% of our students failing to meet state standards upon graduating high school when they either go into college or into the workforce.
Thank you. Mr. Knicker.
Yes, my three items here. First one, and the most critical one, would be to continue to increase our student performance through the development and implementation of the Common Core. We worked very hard last year. Math is going to be implemented next year. English and social studies will be implemented in the year following. The second part would be the balanced budget. We have had a balanced budget. I've heard a lot of different balanced budget concepts coming from the other end of the table there. We have had 3 years of a balanced budget and cut $15 million out of our budget in order to do that, and we have a 5-year projection of a balanced budget continuing on. The third, I agree with other comments down the board here, the table here about technology. I think we should increase our technology across the board so all students have a way to connect when they want to connect and have that implementation take place as soon as we possibly can. And we've made great roads in that in the last 2 years of a 5-year plan we're in the middle of.
Thank you. Mr. Fogarty.
The three things that I'm most concerned with are technology that resonates with me. However, I'm going to add a little subtlety and nuance to it. Technology is a good thing, but it cannot substitute real education and real learning. Like I mentioned earlier, I teach at the college level, and some of the students sometimes have I challenge them to think outside of the material presented in the textbooks that we cover. And we have to make sure that technology is married carefully with critical thinking skills and kind of a holistic approach to it. Secondly, at the elementary school level, my daughter has been on Girls on the Run. I would like to see that rolled out to all the elementary schools. It's focused towards young girls, and it focuses on self-image issues as well as athleticism. And third of all, Common Core. We have to make sure we roll it out and do not lose sight of the true purpose of education.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw.
I think our top priority is actually the education of the children. Whether it's Common Core or other curriculum, we need input from the community to make sure that we're actually emphasizing the right things and that we're working in conjunction with our parents to teach the children so that they grow up to be happy, self-sufficient, contributing members of society. That's the ultimate end goal of schooling. It's to give them the tools they need to be adults is the end goal. Other things we need to worry about is the finances. We need to make sure that we're not burdening the taxpayers too much, and we need to make sure that we that we're taking care of all the things we need to take care of on the financial end. And if I was to pick up a third issue, I'd say transparency. We need to make sure that our community really understands what we're doing.
Thank you. Our fourth question, and I'll ask Ms. Intihar if you'll answer first. We've already, in the last answers, had some talk about Common Core, so let's go there. Please share your thoughts on new educational methods to increase learning, especially the curriculum changes that relate to Common Core.
Okay. Common Core, Mrs. Coghill and I sit on the Learning and Teaching Committee for the district, so we've become very familiar with Common Core. First of all, let me just state that even when we were on the old curriculum that was based on the Illinois state standards, our District 200 standards were above and beyond the Illinois state standards. So this will be no different when we get to Common Core. We will not implement Common Core strictly as it is. We will put on top of it our local feelings about what our students should be able to should learn and be able to do. So our curriculum will exceed the Common Core. The Common Core curriculum is written in a top-down fashion from the standpoint that implementing this K-8 will prepare our students to better achieve what Mr. Long's talked about, achieving at that 11th grade level where they'll be able to exceed or meet state standards in a better way because they're written top-down with that end goal in mind. Right now there's a big disconnect between K-8 standards and high school.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Coghill.
I'm excited about it. I think having a national standards, and when kids go into college, they'll be on an even level, and with the rating and testing. But it is a big challenge, and I love the fact the vocabulary will be the same from kindergarten, preschool through high school. I have a new grandchild, and it's not 1 + 1 anymore. It's the sum of 1 and 1 is 2. So the whole language will be different, and it is going to help our kids achieve. And for the whole rationalization behind it is for us to compete with the other countries.
Thank you. Mr. Paulson.
Well, I'm excited about Common Core as well. The thing about Common Core is these are standards that you measure student achievement. We still get to develop the curriculum that meets our community and our desires as a school board, as parents. So, you know, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be fantastic for the state as well as our district. That's one issue that's going on in the classroom. I see tremendous pressures happening in the classroom in terms of performance evaluation, the changing cut scores for the ISAT, the new curriculum. I think all those issues are going to lead to really having a priority on professional development for our staff, especially the younger staff that come in over the next couple of years. I think that the reinforcement of professional learning communities for our individual schools are going to be critical to make sure each individual student gets the individualized instruction and care that they need. So I'm excited about Common Core, and I think we have lots of opportunities as a district to make it very pertinent and successful for ourselves.
Thank you. Mr. Nininger.
This fall, my 5th grade daughter piloted Common Core math, so I'm very familiar with it, and it was different. It was much more rigorous. In fact, at one point, she was doing her homework, and I looked at it, and I said, Caitlin, are you sure you don't have Kayla's homework? Kayla's my 7th grader in advanced math. It was that much more rigorous. So it was a challenge for her. It was a challenge for her mom, for me, and for the teachers. But at the end of the day, she was better for having done it. So I think Common Core is going to be a good thing. It's going to require a lot of communication with the parents because there will be what is apparently a dip in performance because the standards have been raised. But I think our kids are going to be better off for it. It's an emphasis on skills-based application of learning as compared to rote memorization. Again, I think that's a good thing. There's going to be some adjustment, some implementation challenges, but we'll be better for it.
Thank you. Mr. Lonks.
Yes, Common Core is being pushed out by the state down to the local levels. I don't know if I agree with all the Common Core issues, but I do agree that we do need some kind of curriculum changes and changes in the classroom. In my children's classroom, I know that they spend excessive time in teaching the kids how to take tests for the ISATs and assessment testing from the district. I think we need to spend more time actually teaching the kids by having them learn concepts and so forth in the classroom, go back to some of the basics that we used to have in education a while back.
Thank you. Mr. Knicker.
Common Core is a new approach to learning, and where you get into real-world modeling. And if you take a look at elementary school, there's an increase in math vocabulary that it'll carry itself all the way through middle school and on into high school. So our younger kids going through first, second, third grade will learn a vocabulary, as Joanne had indicated, a whole different way of doing things. And the real-world modeling, which we don't have, it's one thing to sit and to be taught rote mathematics skills, but to know how you're going to apply it and what it's going to mean to you as you get out into the real world is the real modeling here, or the real Common Core aspect in the growth. We've established this. We've got our professional learning communities going through our schools at the present time, talking about this, knowing what it's going to mean to roll the whole math curriculum out next year, and it's going to be a tremendous opportunity for all of our children to be a part of this new curriculum.
Thank you. Mr. Fogarty.
Well, like I said earlier, I generally support Common Core, but I support it with a note of caution. We have to make sure that we don't get so much into the method and the metrics and the program that we kind of forget about teaching our students to think critically and to assess the problem outside the immediate material. I've had some personal experience where friends of the family have been in a classroom that was definitely, in a math class, definitely below their level, and despite several attempts to be moved into a higher level, this particular student was placed in a lower level class and was not allowed to leave. And the student has consistently gotten A's for the rest of the school year. So I think that's unfortunate.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw.
I'm a little apprehensive about Common Core, mostly because it is a federal program, and you're going to have tests, and we're going to have standards that are coming from somebody up on high. And even if they're doing a good job now, I think that's too much power to put in one group's hands. The curriculum should belong to the school district, not be something that is mandated from above. Now, that having been said, I also looked up some of the examples of Common Core, and I found an example of subtraction of two-digit numbers. And they talked about using number lines, counting forward, counting backwards. The only method they didn't do was memorize your math facts and subtract the old-fashioned way where we do it by columns. I think that some of this is, while it's more rigorous, it may be tougher, it may also be more confusing. I fear they may learn less rather than more. And I'm very concerned about making sure that we're not dropping critical items from our curriculum in order to make way for new stuff.
Thank you. Mr. Matheson.
The Common Core program really it's very challenging. I think it's a mandate that we are now confronted with. I believe that, we're being prepared that this district and other districts in the state of Illinois are going to underperform when they get compared to the world, I guess we'll call it, in Common Core performance. I think it's a great program. I think it creates creative thinking. My biggest concern with it is that the deliverers of the process will be adequately trained to perform the transition from historical programming to Common Core. And it's so critical. It'll prepare our children better to compete in the world, in my belief.
Thank you. We're going to take the next question, Ms. Coghill. I'll ask you to answer first, please. How can we educate and protect students about bullying, provide safety measures against violence, and what are your thoughts on armed presence at elementary schools?
Okay, first of all, bullying. I know we have policies in place. I do want us to have our teachers more involved and more present because they're the ones that are with the students, and we have a no tolerance rule, but really to enforce it and to educate our children and to just put it more in the classroom and more education and what it does to children and just educate them more about their actions. And what was the other one?
About violence in school generally, and then the presence of armed presence at elementary schools.
Yeah, violence is definitely something that has come up more and more over these last 5 years, and it is a scary thought. We feel we have policies in place, but we are looking at them and improving them, and I know our superintendent is on statewide committees to see what other districts are doing, but it is something we need.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Paulson.
Well, bullying is certainly a nationwide issue that's very difficult. I think we need to have successful programs with our parents to keep them engaged with their understanding the clues that happen with their children, and work very closely with the individual parent-teacher groups to hopefully successfully deliver that. In terms of school security, that's obviously a major issue. I do not support armed guards. I did talk to one of the security consultants that my firm uses, and he made a great comment to me that District 200 has long been the beacon in terms of emergency response in an event. But what he suggested, not because of District 200, but in terms of any district, is we look at, how do we deal with access control, which is access to the building and control throughout the school, as well as communications in terms of emergency situations. So I think that's possible to possibly do a safety audit for our schools very, very cost effectively, and I think that's a great opportunity, but I do not support armed guards.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nenninger.
From a board's perspective, obviously, no board is going to take anything other than a zero-tolerance approach. But I think what a board needs to communicate is to the personnel in the school who are the front line, to our principals, to our assistant principals, and to our teachers, that zero-tolerance policy is critical, and we're looking at them to enforce it. And I think that the administrators and teachers that I've dealt with in District 200 have been incredibly good about setting a tone in the school of respect for diversity and for people who are different. So I'm very proud of the way our teachers and administrators have dealt with this so far. With regard to armed guards, and I think it was in elementary schools, no, I'm not in favor of that. I do think that the liaisons we have, the police liaisons in the high school, are a great idea. We should be open to any suggestions they have, but I'm certainly not supportive of having armed guards in our elementary schools.
Thank you. Mr. Lonks.
Well, I'm going to start with the armed guards. I don't think there's a need for armed guards at our elementary schools in our district. All our schools currently are locked, so nobody can gain entry into the school, and any entry is limited mostly into the main office area before they allow anybody into the school. Now, about bullying. Bullying is bad and is painful for the one on the receiving end. I've been to a bully seminar and found it very interesting. Our school, Pleasant Hill, has had many bullying assemblies, and I believe that they found it had a very positive effect on the students. I think the students should be exposed more to the anti-bullying assemblies in the school, and that will hopefully cut down on the effect of bullying they has on the kids that are getting picked on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knicker.
First of all, the easy one is no armed personnel in our buildings. We have 2 high school liaison officers that are there for a lot of other purposes, but not at the elementary area. We have a tremendous staff of teachers, and they monitor this bullying day in and day out. They hold, our school psychs and our school social workers hold group meetings if need be to eliminate the problem of bullying. We also have initiated at our high schools and at one middle school, and this discussion is going to be open for additional on-site cameras in all the hallways. That has eliminated a lot of bullying. It took place in the halls when teachers were walking back into their classroom, and now the cameras are on all the time. The kids know that, and would they bully somewhere else? Possibly. Monroe School has had a tremendous seminar last year with our assistant principal there on bullying, and it was a very, very successful seminar. So we work very hard to maintain a bullyless environment.
Thank you. Mr. Fogarty.
I agree with most of the other candidates, no armed guards at the schools. I think that's just asking for trouble. As far as bullying goes, I'm generally happy with some of the anti-bullying programs the schools have been doing. When my son was in about 3rd grade, one weekend I remember him stop and thinking about something and him saying, well, I can't do that, that would be bullying. And for those of you who have currently or have had 3rd grade boys, for them to have a moment of reflection to think on bullying, I think is remarkable. I think the school system did a very good job in that respect. As far as the best cure is a pound of prevention. Identify the kids who are prone to exhibiting bullying behavior and address their needs, because there's probably an esteem issue. If you address that, you'll probably arrest the problem before it becomes anything significant. And a safety audit, yeah, we can always be more vigilant.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw.
I don't think we need armed guards in the school either. If we were to do anything, it would be concealed carry, and I'm not certain who we would let have that. So at this point, I don't think we want to go there. I know the schools are very secure. We have a very good neighborhood. On the bullying stuff, a lot of it has to do with setting good examples. It's the parents, it's the community. It's teaching the kids not just about bullying. It's working with the kids who have the lowest self-esteem to make sure they understand what's right and what's wrong. It's working with the kids who are picked on to let them know how to handle the situation. Well, we as adults would like to stop our kids from having all bad, things happen to them. You can't do it. The real truth of the matter is we need to teach our children how to deal with each other, how to stop it themselves, how to get along and be respectful, so that the children themselves learn these lifelong lessons that they need to know.
Thank you. Mr. Matheson.
Yes, I wish I knew all the answers. This is one that's we could talk about all day here. We could set policy. We have to change policy as an ongoing basis. This is what the administration's for, what it gets trained for, and we have to adapt to those needs. And the whole internet world and tweeting and so on. Those are challenges that we as parents don't even know about in many respects. And so we have to be constantly changing and evaluating this. But I only hope that we never have the serious problems that have occurred and that would ever require armed guards or anything like that. But it is a major challenge, and we have to be cognizant of it constantly.
Thank you. Ms. Intihar.
I believe we review our anti-bullying policy every year at the board level. It is a board level policy that we try our best to sit on top of and make sure that it's current and up to date and addresses all the needs in that area. I think the first thing is to heighten awareness and then address the causes, as many of my colleagues up here have said. And we'll be doing this through some adopting some social emotional learning standards and practices. In fact, that's going to be coming up at our April 24th meeting. So we're trying to stay on top of that as the best we can. And I do know, I have one of the school psychologists sit on my teacher group. I do know that the specialists in our buildings tend to go out of their way to protect students in very unique and interesting ways, but to protect the entire student body as well as the students who are on their own, so to speak. And I do believe reflection was mentioned, and I do believe that reflection on behavior is what is key in all of this.
Thank you. Our next question, I'll ask Mr. Paulson. I should say, Mr. Paulson asked me to call him Paul, but it's difficult to be informal while wearing a bow tie. Brad. He asked me to call him Brad. Mr. Paulson lives in Arkansas. Okay, but now you messed my joke up. So, no, it's all good. Mr. Paulson, against our benchmark districts, District 200 is one of the most fiscally sound. How should the board best work to continue this on this course, or what would you change? Would you support a tax rate referendum to continue financial stability?
No.
Thank you.
I think we're in very good fiscal shape. I'm confident with our fund balance. I'd like to continue building that fund balance to get up to about 40%, which all of my financial advisors that I work with in other districts suggest we be at. In terms of our peers, I've looked at the tax rates for several comparable districts around us, unit districts, K through 12 districts. I feel very comfortable we're at the bottom of the list in terms of that tax rate. And I understand that there's a lot of variables that go into that in terms of the EAV of the district and the size of the district, et cetera, but I'd still rather be at the bottom than the top. In terms of long-term financial planning, I think that's critical. I think the way we do the 5-year financial plans, and we've looked at assumptions in the future is the right solution, and we just need to continue the path we're on to continue keeping our district strong and our community strong and maintain that financial recognition we just got from the State Board of Education yesterday.
Thank you. Mr. Nenninger.
Well, I think it's important to recognize that some of the existing fund balance is attributable to a state grant that was provided to the district, so we do appreciate that money. Let's start with balanced budgets, not optional. I think everyone hopefully agrees. Going forward, there's going to be a lot of challenges presented to this district, and they're not of the district's making. There's healthcare challenges based on federal laws. There's pension challenges at the state level that are going to be pushed down onto school districts. And I can't tell you, I don't have a crystal ball, I can't tell you what those are going to be. I can tell you I've spent 20 years structuring financial matters, so I will be in a position to offer my thoughts and advice in a healthy debate in how to deal with those.
Thank you. Mr. Lonks.
I am definitely against a tax rate referendum at this time. We definitely need to be fiscally responsible with the revenues we're now receiving. And regarding the, as Kyle said, regarding the $14.5 million capital development fund, that money was for projects done for Wheaton North and Wheaton South about 10 years ago. And what the board decided to do was move that into the operating account last year. And that's the only reason that they ran a balanced budget that year, because they had the $14.5 million to boost their reserve balances and then also give them a high credit rating. So when they go out to the financing on the referendum, they got a lower interest rate.
Thank you. Mr. Knicker.
Yes, we've for the past 3 years, we've been fiscally sound and we've had a balanced budget. I've already said that once, but say it again, but we do have built into our budget the potential for the pension to be sent back to the local level. That's already built into the budget, and we still balanced it, anticipating that, even though we haven't received notification that's coming yet. We've negotiated a modest 3-year contract with our teachers that's tied to the CPI. So whatever the consumer price index does, the teachers will receive appropriate compensation for them at that. We also have initiated in the last 3 years over $2 million in energy savings due to an energy educator program that we've had implemented here in our district for the last 3 years. So we work very carefully on fiscal management and saving money, making sure that the ends meet and we stay within the budget.
Thank you. Mr. Fogarty.
To maintain fiscal stability, I think better long-term planning is needed. I think the districts starting to use performance contracting where the capital expenditures, the savings generated by the capital expenditures are used to service the debt or pay the bills related to that are a good step. What I'm most concerned about is this long-term is the need to go into debt to finance capital additions. If you walk around the district, some of the buildings are going to need some significant investments in their physical plant, and I would hate to get in the habit long-term to continually go to the public and ask for a tax referendum to support it. The first question was, do you support a tax increase for operating funds? And my answer to that is no.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw.
I do not support a tax referendum for operating expenses. However, I wouldn't support one passing. I'd actually support putting one on the ballot if we do it, say, in November of one of those even years when we have a presidential race, so that we actually get the opinion of the whole public instead of just the few that show up for these little races. I'm also agreeing with him that we need to be looking at the buildings. A lot of things in buildings start going bad after 20, 30 years, and we've redone all the buildings in the last 20 years, but folks, that means they're going to be doing it again. As far as this, we've been in great shape and balanced budget for 3 years. I'd like to point out that some of these members have been on the board for over a decade. They ran deficits up until they ran out of our money. And then they decided that we needed to balance the budget. And I commend them for balancing the budget and taking the the high road now and trying to get everything solid. But we need to keep that up and make sure we really get things solid on this finances.
Thank you. Mr. Matheson.
Thank you. This is certainly one of the major issues that we're confronted with. As we talk, Jan just made reference to the fact that this existing board, in many respects, was in place when we went into these financial affairs that caused a $15 million cutback a few years ago. So, and I'm also hearing about tax rate changes, and I'm hearing comments that we wouldn't vote for it. Well, I think that's what Jefferson is a tax rate increase. So I believe that we don't have our budget. I know what's in there, and it's a status quo budget. It doesn't provide for technology improvements, et cetera. So I think, again, we have some serious financial concerns that we're not really addressing in many respects. The whole rating that occurred was because, as Harold mentioned, it was because we got this grant from 2003 that we ran out of money, or that we weren't expecting again. That moved us in a higher category of financial rating. So I think it's a really strong issue that I'm hearing conflict on, and I think that we really have to watch that.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Intihar.
Okay, a little history lesson here. In 1999, we ran a $35 million referendum, and we did $52 million worth of work that was needed to be done. $17 million almost came out of reserves. So when we put this money back in that we just received, it replenished reserves. It was there for operating expenses that was spent on buildings, and so that's why we felt it necessary, and we decided to put it back into reserve. So it wasn't like it was something that we decided to do to be fiscally prudent. So I just want to kind of straighten that out. We do have a 5-year budget. I have it right in front of me, actually, and it does include expenses for technology long term. Those are projected. It does include health and dental benefits, escalating at higher than the rate of inflation. It does include for a gradual pension shift from the state of Illinois to us. It also includes known retirements in future years, where we have 143 teachers in the next 4 years at the higher end of the pay scale retiring, and we'll be replacing those teachers with younger and less expensive teachers. So we have a plan.
Don't make me pull the car over. Thank you. I said, don't make me pull this car over. I'll do it. Thank you. Ms. Coghill.
I am very proud that we have reserves and that we did not use our grant money. It would have been very easy just to use it for to build the school. But if you could relate it to your own home and to spend money and have no savings, none of us would do that. So we can't do it as a district as well. And yes, it was very well planned out to do it to improve our rating, and then we got a better interest rate on our loan. So, I mean, to me, it's just common sense. And yes, if we want to go out, and if you had your home and you wanted to put an addition on, and you had to borrow the money, can you afford the payments? And so we will let the owners of this district decide if we want to build this new school. So I'm very proud of our reserves and our budget, and just a quick note that from a real estate standpoint, when people look, the taxes in Wheaton and in our district, all the towns in our district are lower than our surrounding towns.
Thank you.
For the same value home.
Thank you. Oh, they're getting feisty into the... You see what they're doing? You're paying attention, right? The next question I'll ask Mr. Nenninger. Can you address it first, please? Oh, wait.
We only do one more question, right?
Yes, I believe so. You're going to do this one instead? Oh, this one was... Oh. I'll tell you about it later. The question is this, the last question of the evening. How would you address equality across the district with regard to technology, athletic facilities, and building conditions? Mr. Nenninger.
To me, there's not a choice here. The quality across the district that's provided by the district has to be equal. When the district provides something to one high school, the district should provide the same thing to the other high school. When it provides it to one middle school, it should make sure the other middle schools have it. And the same when it provides it to one elementary school, all elementary schools should have it. Given the economic times that we are in, I think that there's opportunities and would like to encourage private fundraising to enhance those facilities. I know as I mentioned, Tiger Paws, the booster group itself, the parents have put over $100,000 worth of technology into the school over the last 2 years. Something that we want to encourage. But in terms of district-provided facilities, equality amongst the schools isn't optional.
Thank you. Mr. Lonks.
As far as the technology goes, most of the technology about being equal, they definitely need to be kind of equal all across the district. The biggest issue comes in is that many of the schools have strong PTAs and the high schools have booster clubs, and they help finance a lot of the technology. In our school, Pleasant Hill, I know we finance a lot of document cameras and smart boards and so forth at each of the classrooms. And if there's schools that don't have smart boards, I know when the funding comes up, those schools without the smart boards do get it from the district. So they do try to keep things kind of on an equal par. So I do agree that the schools definitely need to have the same technology throughout the whole district to make everything equal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knicker.
Yes, I believe every referendum we've passed in the last 12 years since I've been on the board has been an equal application of the funds and the design by program for the schools that we have put on the referendum. For instance, when we did the high schools and did field houses, both schools got field houses. They're the same size, they're the same equipment, they're the same everything. Both schools had their fields turfed at the same time. That was all the equality. What we're trying to do is manage that, and like Mr. Long said, some of the PTAs have helped out immensely in supplying certain things to their schools that the district could not put into a budget at that time, and other schools have gotten them through a normal budgeting process. So for that, I thank the PTAs for supplying all of that and selling a lot of wrapping paper and magazines.
Thank you. Mr. Fogarty.
Well, the first step before you allocate resources is to develop a consistent standard across all the areas of the school district, whether it be athletics or technology or the standards of the classroom and that sort of thing. Once that standard is set, then it's just a simple budgeting exercise that I've seen a lot of times in my work life where figure out what your gap is at each location and then allocate resources evenly to address those gaps. So the final analysis is just a budgeting exercise. And then, like some of the other candidates indicate, try to engage the various boosters and PTA clubs to contribute what they can and what they can generate.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw.
Okay, it's a matter of economics. Sometimes you have to say no to something to say yes to other things. And how many of you guys have more than one child? If you do, you know very well that while you try very hard to be equal and give everybody the same thing, you can't give them all the same thing because they don't all have the same needs or the same desires. So sometimes you do A for child A and sometimes you do B for child, so they're not identical. We do the best we can to keep things equal. You definitely want to make sure that not one of the schools feels like, gee, they're getting it, we're not. And yeah, the PTA does do things for their schools, and that can lead to some issues of one school feeling like another school's got things a little better than they do. For instance, Hubble is a much nicer middle school than the other 3 middle schools. It's just the way it is. So anyway, as Mr. Fogarty said, it's a budgeting issue. It's a matter of looking at the limited resources and doing the best we can to take care of everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Matheson.
I think that, realistically, the key issues have to be identified. One of the big issues I have is technology. There's no way that any school should have more or better or worse technology than another. And so that priority has to drive all the decisions we make with the limited resources we make. The PTAs and the bake sales are not going to fund those kind of problems. We've talked about the pension. The dollars that the state currently pays for the pension is $26 million a year. That's how much is getting put in. We're not going to solve those problems with PTA and boosters. We have some real serious challenges in front of us. So in order to get these funded, we have to prioritize and make sure that the key issues are those that are equally provided throughout the district.
Thank you. Ms. Intihar.
I like the term equitable rather than equal. because I think what our facilities should provide is our equitable learning opportunities, both in the classroom as well as in extracurricular activities. I think that whatever we do, and typically what we do with booster clubs and with PTAs, is we work as partners, as a staff and board, and we set priorities and find out ways we can help each other. That's the way it's always happened since I've been participating. Anyway, I think with the last high school referendum, for example, we had some discretionary money that was left over from some efficiencies in building, and each principal was given money to use toward their wish list. So the principal at North used it for something different than the principal at South. So you're going to have some issues when it comes to things like that. But on the other hand, we're all kind of equitable and trying to keep it equitable. That's fair to our students.
Thank you. Ms. Coghill?
I agree that they're all our schools, they're all our children, and they should be treated equally and receive the standards that we have for them. But I do believe each of our schools have a separate personality, a separate population, and needs specific to that population that then they would need to be addressed and given that consideration. I would, as Brad had suggested, is to partner with our community more and to get businesses to help with their specialty and even outside of our community to help us with financing and education and funding, and I think that's a real resource that we can tap into.
Thank you.
So the question was, how do we balance in an equitable fashion of technology needs, athletic facility needs, and building conditions? This is my day job. I do this all the time. I help school districts all over the state of Illinois. I think I bring some unique expertise to help guide that. The way you do that is you develop building assessments, you leverage off the assessments we already have, you establish your needs, you figure out what your wants versus needs are, you establish your priorities, whether it's a learning environment or deferred maintenance issues or technology issues or energy issues. And what I've had a lot of success with school districts doing is developing a three-part community engagement process where we work with the different groups and have open houses and listen to the opinions and concerns of parents across the district to understand what their priorities are. Then you develop options, you develop a long-term plan, you integrate it into your financial model. And it becomes very complicated because you need to make sure the plan doesn't wind up undoing things you've done previously. So how that plan is developed is very difficult and challenging, and I think the expertise I would bring to the board would be beneficial to the entire community and to the schools.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that concludes the question and answer portion. Each of the candidates will now have an opportunity to give a 1-minute closing statement, and we'll start with Mr. Lonks.
Thank you for spending your evening listening to all the candidates. When I decided to run for school board, I educated myself about the past, present, and future issues so I could be an asset to the board. Over the past 3+ years, I have attended at least 90% of the school board meetings and most of the board committee meetings. I will commit to being a good listener to your concerns, being an advocate for transparency, reducing the number of students failing to meet state standards, being fiscally responsible how the district spends its funds. This board needs to have 4 new faces with new ideas and viewpoints. It's very important to vote on April 9th. Please vote for me, Harold Lonks. Thank you for coming out this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Knicker.
Yes, I'd like to close my part of the presentation here about talking about children, because that's really what it's all about. You know, our spectrum of services is mandated by state law, and we as a district have to provide a quality education for a severe and profoundly challenged child in a least restrictive environment, as well as the gifted children and every child in between. This is a pretty big challenge and a responsibility for our teachers and administration, and we ask a lot from these people. From the first day the children enter kindergarten, or in some cases, 3-year-old child entering Jefferson Early Childhood Center, caring individuals take charge. The staff makes a difference. I would appreciate your vote on April 9th, as I want to commit to you my dedication to continue to serve our district and our children. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank the PTA as well.
Thank you. Mr. Fogarty.
The one thing that I think I can offer is an independent voice. I currently on the Wheaton Library Board, and there have been a few occasions when I was the lone dissenting vote on some issues, and there have also been other votes that I have done where I have been able to change people's mind. And I've been able to change their mind because of out-of-the-box thinking and challenging some of the groupthink that occasionally goes on in small boards. So that's one thing that I can offer the voters of the district. I can also offer them a varied background, both in an educational setting and a financial setting. So I'd appreciate your vote next week.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw.
Well, I promise I will ask the questions. I'll do some homework. I'll think out of the box. Don't necessarily just go along to get along. But we need to discuss the issues, and then once we come to a conclusion, we vote, and then we back whatever the decision of the whole board is. I bring the unique perspective of somebody who's been a parent, who's actually taught in some classrooms. Granted, it was as a sub as opposed to a class of my own, but I've seen a whole variety of schools here. I think the most important issue we have is making sure that we give our teachers the freedom to really teach so that children can really learn, and not just learn to regurgitate what they're told, but actually to think and think out of the box so that they can become great members of society.
Thank you. Mr. Matheson.
Thank you again for coming tonight. I want to make a pledge that I will do the best job I can to help educate our students to the highest level of achievement that's possible. I've worked with the business community. I'm not talking about it. I've done it. I do financial affairs with school districts, and I've done it for 30 years. I think our challenges deal with the technology and the delivery of that technology. I think we have to make sure all the teachers are on the team, willing to be trained in the new Common Core, etc. I want to thank the Daily Herald for endorsing me, and I also want to point out that I should be your #1 candidate because I'm the first on the ballot.
And I'm 5th, and I don't want to be number 5.
Ms. Intihar.
Okay, thank you again, Kelly 1D and your team for putting this together. And thank all of you for your interest. No matter whom you choose on Tuesday, you will be making an informed decision, and that is what is of utmost importance for the future of District 200. We continue to have work to do, and I welcome the challenge of serving another term to serve you and guide the district in its mission. We have several major initiatives in the works, and you have heard about many of them tonight: the Common Core, Jefferson, and the challenges that continue because of the poor fiscal condition of the state of Illinois. I hope that my record of experience, leadership, commitment, and service have earned your vote for another 4 years. If you would like more information about me and my issues in this race, and my 21 years of service to the school district through volunteering in the classroom, please pick up a brochure from my table. It contains my website, my email, my phone number, and Facebook addresses. And so I'm interested in hearing from you and addressing any and all concerns you may have. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Coghill.
I'm proud of the accomplishments that have been made by our board. Our fiscal responsibility, our curriculum initiative, and technology improvements are continuing. I would love to be on this board again to help progress it to the next level. I appreciate the endorsement of the Daily Herald and the Teachers Union. And I just wanted to end with a survey study that was done by the University of Chicago, and it had identified the 5 essentials for the most successful school. And I will back these. 1 is effective leadership for our teachers, our admin, and our students. Collaborative teachers. We have our PLCs and continue that. Involve families. We have the best district families, and we'll encourage that. Supportive environment. That's a culture that we want to have throughout our district of cooperation and tolerance and the best for our students. And then ambitious instruction, and we will get that with our Common Core and with the great leaders we have.
Thank you. Mr. Paulson.
Well, we've heard a lot about numbers and finance tonight, and I want to talk about some other numbers that I feel are indicative of my deep personal commitment to the job that I'm trying to get on Tuesday. Since March 1st, I've spent 13 days walking door to door. This is a 52-hour investment that has enabled me to stop at 1,056 houses and talk with residents about their concerns, issues, and aspirations for our schools. I made this investment because I'm very excited and passionate about this opportunity and look positively to the future. This excitement is based on a unique combination of attributes I offer to help address our community members' desires. I bring a perspective of having young children. I bring long-term interest in advancing our district. I have a background of creative problem solving and fiscal discipline. I bring exposure to global best practices in teaching and learning, and I help lead a business. It is this unique combination of experience and knowledge and perspective that I think makes me uniquely qualified for candidate for the Board of Education. I'm number 4 on the ballot. I'm asking for your vote so that together we can advance District 200.
Thank you. Mr. Nenninger.
My slogan is parent, professional, and passionate. So let's talk about that. Parent. You've heard that I have 4 daughters attending school in the district. Currently, only 1 board member has a child attending school in the district. I think the Board of Education would benefit from more parents' perspective on it. Professional. I have a law degree. I have an MBA in finance. I'll bring a common sense approach to solving issues that the district faces. Passionate. The reason that I'm doing this, I am passionate about the children in this district. I've been blessed to work with them in various capacities. They are amazing. I want to be able to continue to contribute to their development through my service on the Board of Education. If elected, I commit to you that I will work to be your voice on the Board of Education. I will absolutely demand transparency and common sense. I will be fiscally responsible, and I will make our students our top priority. We're blessed to have the best teachers, parents, and students in the state. If elected, I will work hard to make the Board of Education part of that list.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you to the PTA for putting on a wonderful event and screening all of those questions. And thank you to the candidates for being respectful to one another, observing the time, and being so passionate about education. Thank you all.
I'd also like to give a big thank you to Tim Morris from TMO Video and to Tom King, our videographer, who graciously offered to record this forum for us, and it will be uploaded to YouTube.